What's going on, guys? I'm Ben Bateman.
And I'm Andrew Guy.
And we are the Action Guys.
We got, in case you were wondering what that was.
On our other show, we do Action Movie Anatomy. We been doing the same intro for years.
Same intro for 4 years.
Almost 5.
Oh, yeah.
The engineer decided to insert the sound of a bald eagle.
A bald eagle cawing in the intro? It's so epic.
It's epic. So now if it's not there...
It's so funny how growing up, being American was basically synonymous with being a bald eagle. Like, that's what I associated being American. I thought that's like what you would do.
Yeah.
Like at the UN as a kid, if you went there, it's like you guys would just go talk about your animals. It just felt like America was bald eagles.
I had a post.
Yeah.
No, wait, shit. That was a hawk. I cheated.
That sounded like a hawk.
When I was a kid, I had a poster on the wall. That was Cody's contribution. Cody, bravo for that.
I'm so
that
glad
was,
I hung
be
out
here, guys.
long enough to be.
That was amazing.
Yeah, it was
Cody.
good.
Cody Hall, everyone. Cody Hall.
There's no one in here.
Yeah, he's.
I've already left.
He's out. So when I was a kid, I had a poster on the wall of Superman, and it was he wages a never-end. It was actually a quilt. I'm sorry, it was a large quilt of Superman, but it looked like a poster.
You had a quilt on your wall.
Of Superman. Yes.
You're a cat guy, aren't you?
It said, "He wages a never-ending battle for truth, justice, and the American way." And Superman was standing with his hands on his hips, and on his shoulder was a bald eagle.
Wow.
So
That's epic.
Yeah.
What are we talking about today on the show?
quilts, my quilt collection, quilting actually.
It started in 1742.
I am just peeved.
The house was built in 1982 by General Custer.
So today, guys, on the Action Guys, that's us. We're going to be talking about the best movie of each year of the decade, starting with 2010. Drew and I did an exhaustive process over the last several weeks putting our lists together.
It's been insane. It's been an insane amount of prep.
Yeah, it's been crazy.
The truth is that we have not done any prep for our favorite movies of 2019 or our favorite movies of the decade. So we figured this would actually be a very nice kind of introductory for us into picking the best movie of each year, because there's a lot of movies that you forget about. And going back through this list, it's really, really hard to narrow it down to just one. It's almost impossible.
Well, I think there's a couple factors here that are really interesting. So the first one is that the recency bias is always strong with movie watchers, right? So the more recently you saw a movie, the harder it is to establish that you think it's one of the best all time or one of your favorite ever. Once a few years has passed, you've had conversations about it, movies kind of slot it. So the sweet spot for movies for most people, they're going to be this list. It's going to be 2010 through about 2016 for most movie watchers, because that's the stuff you saw most recently. Unless you're talking about the movies that you saw at a certain age, which for most people is going to be between about 15 and 25. That's like maybe even like 15 and 20.
And the impact that those movies have on you at those ages, it's exponential.
It seems that way for most people. So like if you were to use that same theory, it would mean that most movies for us that came out between like 2003 and 2007 are going to be the ones that we like remember the most fondly as these incredible movies, which makes sense, right? Like in there, you've got Departed and you've got No Country for Old Men, and you have a lot of movies that really have resonated with us. But looking at this list and trying to figure out, what are the best movies of each year, it goes beyond just favorite.
Yeah.
Everybody's putting out their top of the decade list. Everybody's putting out their top 100. I read, who was it? AV Club? AV Club put out their top 100 of the decade list. And I think we talked about it on the episode. And I just was reading it. I was just like, I know when you're talking about the greatest of anything, you have to qualify things. So it's important to have different genres. It's important to have like documentaries on there and foreign films and indies. Right. But like there was some of the stuff on there where I was just like, this is just nonsense that this movie is so high. Or like, how on earth did you not include this? Like populist entertainment is populist entertainment. It's popular.
And it's also popular for a reason. Movies that aren't good don't stay popular. That's one of the biggest issues with this is like people talk a lot about popularity contests and these types of things, but with Hollywood in general, specifically now with the way that we make movies, popularity is everything, because popularity speaks directly and correlates directly to dollars, and dollars directly correlates to more movies being made of that ilk.
And I totally understand the criticism. This is the Scorsese conversation when he talks about the movies that get made. And I get the fact that like if there's only going to be a certain number of films that have real promotional campaigns that end up on billboards and in theaters that people are going to watch, and those are the only movies people are watching, then how could the others ever have a chance? I get that. But here's the thing, guys. You ever been in like a band in high school and you write songs and you think your songs are really good, and your buddy's band, they write songs that are really good, and they sound kind of similar to stuff that's on the radio? If none of you ever get famous and no one ever hears your songs, the ones that were on the radio that sounded similar, they invented the genre.
Right.
They created the songs. They were relevant because they made it. It's not who has the best idea, it's who's successful with the best idea. And that's how art works. So when you talk about movies...
Yeah, I mean, Tarantino is one of the best examples of that. It's not about having the original idea. It's about taking what you know works, repurposing it, and making it your own.
It's why it's a frustrating conversation when you have with like a really pretentious movie critic who likes to talk to you about the idea that like they need to somehow honor every movie, no matter how small to how big, the same way, because they all serve the same purpose. They don't, right? Not every movie on my list here is going to be a comic book movie, but you bet your ass I'm going to value movies that have impacts in huge genres. One of those genres, big budget superhero filmmaking. You have to pay attention to. You can't ignore it.
And if you do ignore it, you're not doing a service to the film industry for the last decade. You can't just talk about movies for the last 10 years without the idea that Iron Man was in 2008, which means that everything after that has happened in the last decade. You know? And there's been a lot of great comic book movies.
100%. So that's today's topic, guys. We are going to be talking about the best movie of each year, the decade. Andrew and I are each going to throw our choice in the ring as well as a runner-up choice. We tried to err far more on the side of greatest here than favorite.
I think I'm going to do both. I think I'm going to do like the greatest and then maybe the runner-up is my favorite. I think. Because
you're just deciding to do this now on the show.
Well, no, because I think that's the way that it's going to actually fall for me is what I'm deciding. Okay. Or like when I'm looking at it, it's like you have to give credit to the greatest movie, but I'm pretty sure the runner-up for every year just ends up being my favorite movie unless it's the greatest.
Yeah, I think it's probably a little column A, a little column B. But I think we can. I have a few written down for each year. I'm going to kind of talk myself through the choice as we get to it each time.
It's so tough.
But I have a few in here that I'm excited about. So before we continue on, guys, be sure to follow along with everything that we are doing. Here, we're on Collider. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and thank you to Collider for hosting this show. If you're watching this on the weekend, because this is a Saturday or a Sunday release now on the Collider the Collider Live channel, leave your thoughts below, your comments. Do you agree or disagree? If you have a different movie per year, leave your thoughts below, because we've really enjoyed seeing the comments, and it's been really fun getting to interact with you guys since we've gone back to video.
Yeah, and I really hope that we that we don't just miss some. I feel like there's no matter what, we're gonna miss like one gigantic movie on both of our lists.
100%.
So make sure you guys are letting us know down below in the comments. Follow us along at patreon.com/Team Action. You can find him at Ben Bateman Media. You can find me at Andrew Guy on Twitter. You can find the show as a collective at Team Action Show, and Instagram, you can find us at Action Industries.
And if you guys just happen to know us from this little thing called the Movie Trivia Schmodown, get hyped, because Drew and I we're playing each other this week.
We are.
If this is airing on the weekend, that match may have already happened, but get excited. That match is up. It's going to be up on SEN. They're going to be doing that whole thing, so go check out the family versus who's the boss. And as always, we will be doing our behind-the-scenes Patreon reaction, patreon.com/Team Action, where you guys can hear, rivalry aside, everything that happened in that match behind the scenes, us talking about it, breaking down every little nuance, every decision, all the controversy, all the shit talking.
Yeah.
So get excited for that and go become a patron if you want to hear that.
And the last thing is, if you cannot or do not want to be a patron, just go check out youtube.com/Action Industries. All those reactions go up a week later for everyone that is not a patron, so you will still be able to see a look, take a peek behind the curtains. Let's start off right now with 2010. 2010 was a big year. We're kicking things off.
This feels like actually of the movies that are being considered here for like best of the decade. This is one of the most definitive years of the decade. For my money, my second choice, my runner-up film, is going to be Christopher Nolan's Inception.
Yeah.
This was the breakthrough Nolan film for his original concepts. Obviously, prior to this movie, he had made Insomnia. He had done Memento. He had things that were really exciting and special. He had done the Batman films and Prestige, but this was nominated for Best Picture. This movie blew people's minds. The rotating hallway fight sequence is still to this day probably one of the most visually impressive. Just a really special movie, and a movie that has stuck with me and most people for a long time.
Yeah, and it put Tom Hardy on the map. It made us fall back in love with Joseph Gordon-Levitt, who had been working. It was a really, really big year, and obviously for Leo. Inception, I do love. The problem for me is Macgruber is my favorite comedy, maybe of the last decade.
Somebody here at Collider made their top comedies of the decade list. It was the #1 comedy of the decade. I'm obsessed with that movie.
It's really tough for me to not say anything about Macgruber, because I've watched that movie more than any movie on this list. And I love that movie. And we did a live show in New York about Macgruber. So I think actually my runner-up is Macgruber. If I had to do a serious runner-up, I'd say The Town, because I think it was really, really monumental in Jeremy Renner's career, and also showing us more of Ben Affleck as a director and a director-actor.
So your two are those two?
Those are no. I was just saying that if I had to pick like a comedy, because it's
sure.
it's I don't feel like it's.
I don't know. We're doing two choices because I have a comedy on here that's going to make it.
Okay, so then I'll just say firmly my runner-up is Macgruber, and my actual greatest film of 2010. It's The Social Network.
Yeah, it's also mine.
It has to be.
It's the number one. There's an argument that The Social Network is just period the best movie of the decade. It's amazing. It hits the sweet spot for so many reasons for so many people. And what happens with The Social Network and why it's so good is that it came out in this incredible transitional time with Facebook as a sort of representation of the most popularized social media to that point. Facebook surpassed what MySpace ever had been. It was taken seriously already in 2010. Everybody used Facebook at that moment. It was the transcendent social media, but the sort of cynicism behind Aaron Sorkin's writing and the way that he didn't trust social media and the way that he decided to characterize the Zuckerberg character as kind of a direct representation of that mistrust, it's really stood the test of time this last decade, and it feels like it was almost like a harbinger of what this decade was going to be about, the sort of discourse of information, the impact that things like Twitter ended up having, the way that information, our fucking president tweets everything now. Like that was not a thing in 2010. I think there was a taste of things to come idea that Sorkin put on the screen in his writing, and Fincher is probably one of the most perfect pairings of writing and directing ever.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the other one, and it's Steve Jobs, right? It's that other combo with Boyle, and the idea of The Social Network is it's a movie about people talking in rooms about a thing that's happening on a computer.
Yeah.
And you feel excited and cool when you're watching it. Like, there's things about it. There's moments in and all throughout that movie where you look at Zuckerberg and you look at the twins and you look at Andrew Garfield and like Justin Timberlake, and you're just like, you're vibing. Like, that's the only way I can say it. When I'm watching that movie, I feel as if I'm watching like Go.
Yeah.
But it's The Social Network.
It's funny, it didn't even hit me how good this movie was until years later. Because I didn't see it in 2010.
Same.
I think I saw it in like 2012 maybe. And I remember like it stuck with me. I was affected by the movie. I thought it was great. But it wasn't until I got older, and I think I heard other people discuss David Fincher's career in a way that I hadn't ever. Because in the early 2010s, I didn't care about movies in the same way I do now. And when I went back to rewatch it and be like, what, how good was this movie really? It just punched me in the gut in this way. And then the music.
Yeah, the music is amazing.
One of the things, and I know we're spending a lot of time on 2010, but it's The Social Network, so it's fair.
Yeah.
One of the things about movies that I think a lot of the casual movie fans don't really get is the way you remember a film has to do, it's not just visual, right? The audio is a huge part of it. So when you have a transcendent score and a score that really sticks with you, it can be one of the most affecting parts of a movie. Like, it can be one of the reasons the movie sticks with you. There's a reason, guys, that you remember songs that you listened to in high school endlessly 25 years later. Like, there's something about it. And that score, that Atticus Ross, Trent Reznor score that won the Academy Award that year.
It's just so good.
It's perfect.
It's perfect.
It's perfect. It's just there's so many things going for this movie. So that is the best movie of 2010. I don't know.
It almost feels like those are the hardest movies to make.
Yeah.
Because you have to have everything right. The casting has to be perfect. The acting has to be on point. Every shot has to be compelling enough. The music has to keep you engaged. It's so difficult to do. And then the nonlinear storytelling, again, in The Social Network and in Steve Jobs, it's incredible. So that's 2010. What is yours? Let us know down below. Let's get on to 2011. Ben, my runner-up is The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, another Fincher movie.
Really?
Really? Is it yours?
No.
Oh.
Damn it. I love that movie. I think that movie's great. The last 15 minutes almost derails it completely. I hate the last 15 minutes of that movie.
I don't remember it well enough. I mean, I remember him getting like tortured, and then
You're free. See,
then he gets out.
I rewatched it last year.
Yeah.
And I forgot that the last 15 even happened.
He gets.
It's like the last 10 minutes even.
It's like a love story, or don't they run away together or something?
No.
What is it? What the hell is it? Why the hell can't I remember?
I think if you were to rewatch this movie, you would probably still put it where it is, but with a massive asterisk. They literally, the story ends, they get out, he goes back to Robin Wright, she pulls off an elaborate heist to frame the rich guy who had been, and you see it through security camera footage and her in a wig, and it's what is this movie doing?
Yeah.
It's just what the fuck are you guys, why was any of this in the movie? Literally none of this should have been in the movie. You guys should have ended the movie when the movie ended, because this 10 minutes is somebody not doing their job. It's somebody literally going like, yeah, let's add this other thing. It's probably from a later book.
I realized I forgot to write down the other one.
For
It
2011.
was supposed to be.
Well, I can go with my 2011s if you want to take a second.
Well, yeah, no, I know what they are. So I know what my number one is. Okay, so what's your runner-up?
So this is a hard one because the movie that I really, truly, honestly want to put on here because I love it so much is Moneyball. But
Yeah, I thought you were going to have Moneyball. You really don't.
I love Moneyball. I think that movie's amazing. But I've decided that my runner-up for 2011 is Bridesmaids.
Okay. Yep.
And there's a lot of reasons behind it. Every decade gets an R-rated comedy that's really impactful. This was one of the big ones for this decade. It might actually just be the biggest R-rated comedy of the decade. It probably is.
Yeah, I mean, I think honestly, the only really other big runner-up is Deadpool.
Yeah, there's very, very few times that you'll see a comedy movie garner an Academy Award nomination. It doesn't happen that often. It did here with Melissa McCarthy, who became one of the transcendent comedic forces of the decade, and she's amazing. It's really, really heartfelt storytelling, but the humor is just so on point, and it wasn't
So
accidental.
good.
It's a great cast, and Paul Feig is an amazingly talented writer and director, and this movie... It's just funny. It's really, really, really tight and well told.
He's become a blue chip director in comedy, or actually just period. Like you hear his name and you're like, I got to see it because at the very least, I'm going to laugh my ass off a couple times and it's going to be interesting.
Yeah.
That's a really good one. I think what I wanted to say was Drive, but for some reason I'd forgotten.
Drive's
in
fantastic.
2011. I love that movie. I love the music. The soundtrack for Drive actually transcended the movie itself. The real hero and the night
Night
watch
Call.
call
Kavinsky.
yeah by Kavinsky. Those two songs definitely became more popular and I just love Ryan Reynolds.
And
But
I'm pretty sure both of our favorite movie of all time is Warrior. It's 2011.
Yeah.
Now I did consider, because of the idea that this is supposed to be
greatest,
not favorite, sort of talking myself out of Warrior. But like the thing.
but I've never been able to talk myself out of Warrior ever.
Well, here's the thing. So this is another just like sort of non sequitur tangent, so to speak. But I know it's one that you'll appreciate. And this is back on the subject that we started it with, which is like, okay, are we critics or are we film pundits? Whatever we are, whatever our title or our role is, we've been talking about movies consistently for hours and hours and hours in a professional capacity for like 5 years. You know, we know a lot about movies. We talk about them, we screen them, we review them. So if I feel strongly about something, if I have an opinion, like a movie makes me feel a certain way, and it's not in a stupid way, not in like the Weatherman Nick Cage way, where it's like I just know that movie's not that good, but I love it. But it's a movie that when I watch endlessly gets me, and when I show it to other people, it gets them understand how it makes me feel. You can throw words like cliche or stereotypes. You can throw words like it's
corny or whatever you want to call it.
That's just you trying to tear down something that you are not as familiar with because other people think that.
And it doesn't make you feel the way that it makes other people feel, but you got to be able to at least recognize.
I'm pretty sure Snyder has this in his top 5 of the decade.
It's so good, dude. I haven't met one person that's actually watched Warrior and not loved it. I haven't.
Yeah, Warrior is my favorite movie basically ever made. It's obviously it was nominated by the Academy for Nick Nolte, so it's not like some silly sports movie. It's a great movie. It has incredible performances.
And as more time goes on, I think it's been pretty well known that this movie is actually really great. That people just missed it.
Because again, one of the things that we're going to talk about as we continue moving down this list is movies are on here for different reasons. And one of the reasons that this movie's on here for me is that making a sports movie compelling every time you watch it. Every time you watch the same sports movie, you know how it ends, is extremely hard to do.
Especially when it's the ending like this, where so much this is it's in the top one. It's number 157 on IMDb.
Yeah.
For some reason, I did not know it was in the 250.
You don't remember the whole conversation we had about this once?
No.
We were working together at library.
Yeah.
I was in like 2014 probably or 2013 or something, and we were looking at that top 250. It might have been like 2014, and I was saying how much of a bullshit list it is, and I was trying to point to movies that were a good example of why it's not an accurate list. So there was 2 I pointed to. One of them was Rush.
Yeah.
One of them was Prisoners.
It's just funny because in return we actually end up liking Rush, but it shouldn't be on the 250.
No, and Prisoners, like I love, it's one of my favorite movies. Yeah. And one of them was Warrior. I was like, I love that movie. Don't get me wrong, I think it's great, but that's not one of the 250 best movies ever made. Back then, I thought that. Yeah. Right? But then as I got older, I was like, actually, it just is.
God, it was so good.
So anyway, that's we've talked a lot about Warrior. If you guys are fans of us, you know how much we love it. That's 2011.
So I think, honestly, 2012 through 18, things get a lot more interesting because, we had the same favorite movie for the last 2 years, and I have a feeling it's going to change a lot this year. So in 2012... What do you have as your runner-up?
Okay, so
2012 is tough.
it's a really hard one.
It is.
I thought this was one of the hardest years. The film nerd choice this year, and the one that I like a lot, is The Master. But it doesn't make the top 2 for me.
Yeah, okay.
Because as much as I love The Master, it's a movie that is incredible for its performances. I mean, that's why that movie's special. It has 3 unbelievable best of the year level performances, but the movie itself is incredibly uneven. It's weird and hard to follow. It's not super compelling, and it takes a lot of effort to enjoy. So I love it. I'll bet you if I was going to pick 5, it's definitely in there, maybe even 4. But it doesn't make the top 2 for me. The number 2 movie of 2012 for me is Flight.
I knew it. I was just looking at the list. I was like, oh my God, there's no way Ben's not going to put Flight on his list. You love that movie.
I think this movie is fantastic.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people don't like it, and a lot of people didn't watch it, and they were like, oh, Denzel Washington's a pilot. What a stupid, like
why?
Oscar movie,
Yeah,
movie. Go watch Flight. If you've ever known anyone who drinks, if you've ever been someone who drinks, if you've ever drank too much in your life, if you've ever had
go ahead.
an experience with alcoholism in any capacity of your life where you just have an understanding of what it's like.
And we're talking true alcoholism, not like, fucked up on the weekend going and being a jackass, which is part of being an alcoholic. But we're talking like true living, breathing, functioning alcoholic.
Yeah, like you see somebody and it's every day. If you've ever, then go watch Flight, because it's Denzel, and it's turning in a great performance.
Did he get nominated?
Yeah. You've seen this. Yeah.
I watched it when I shouldn't have watched it on your couch.
Yeah. And he is amazing in this movie. There are some elements to this movie that are not as good. I think the supporting cast is not as strong as it needs to be. You know who is great in this movie? Bruce Greenwood.
Of course he is, because he always is.
Don Cheadle's great in this movie. It's Zemeckis, obviously. Zemeckis is very famous for a lot of great movies. But I think this movie is incredibly underrated. I think it's a little long, and but a lot of the best scenes in the movie. I mean, there's a scene in this movie where he goes to the funeral of the stewardess that he was having, like, basically he was engaged, having an affair with, whatever. She's much younger. And when the plane goes down, she dies. And he was drinking while he's flying the airplane. So one of the early pieces of the film is that his lawyer is basically being like, you're going to blame, because she had been drinking the night before, you're going to blame these empty bottles they found in the trash on her. And she was drinking and not you, because she's dead. So he knows if he does that, he can get away with it. And so when he goes to the funeral, he sees like his stewardess that he worked with for years, and he's basically trying to say to her, like, I need you to lie about what we were doing last night. You can't tell him that we had been drinking. And she said, were you drinking the night before? And he's like, had a couple glasses of wine. And she's like, I've known you for years. You've never had a couple glasses of wine ever, anything. And it's just so sad.
Wait, who's he talking to? A different girl that he worked with.
Yeah, who was
that
also
was friends with the one that he that was
friends
died.
with both of them.
Got it.
She's like crying because he's basically like begging her to lie for him.
Right.
It's such a good scene. And this movie, I mean, Leaving Las Vegas is the famous alcoholic movie, but this movie, this movie has stuck with me. I've watched this movie again, and it's great. It's really, really, really great. I think it's underrated as hell.
Yeah, and I think for 2011, Fire Rises? No. As much as I want to throw in Dark Knight Rises, I think my runner-up is actually Zero Dark 30.
Okay.
The biggest movie of the year. We all know what it's about. I think if Jason Clarke just did this movie and never acted again, I'd be totally cool with it.
Yeah.
I love Jason Clarke.
Yeah.
I'm actually a pretty big fan of him.
Me too. I think he's a good actor.
But he's excellent in Zero Dark, and he's pretty mediocre in a lot of other things that he's in.
Yep.
I just can't get the images out of my head of the torturing going on and how they talk about it. It's not about pain. It's about breaking up routine. And that's truly what ruins like human mentality or the psyche. And then honestly, when I think about the end and when they actually go in and they do the whole thing, it's shot so cool and so well done. It's just Bigelow. She's a goddamn legend, and it makes so much sense. That's my runner-up. I have never been compelled to go watch that movie again, but it's always stuck with me. Yeah. And I think that's a really hard thing to do.
It's my number one. That's my best of the year.
Okay.
So Zero Dark is the one that I decided to go with. And it's a great, great, great film. And one of the things about it is I think it has no music. I think it either has no music or little music.
Yeah.
Chastain is so good. She plays. It's kind of like she got a little typecast as these like emotionless type of serious characters because of what she does in this movie, and that she's so good at doing it. Mm-hmm. But she's so perfectly cast, and the movie's great. Like I remember going through like a really tough breakup and seeing this movie like by myself on a Sunday afternoon after like a night of heavy drinking, and I was like a pretty depressed place, and I like saw it, and I just remember walking out and just like the world felt so like quiet.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I felt so like quiet. It was great movie.
It makes you feel small too.
Yeah.
It really does. So my number one on the year, it's Looper. I love Looper.
Really?
I love
Number
Looper.
one for the year?
Number one.
Even the bad makeup.
I don't think that, I mean, like, I honestly, the ear drives everyone crazy.
Yeah.
I don't care. I don't care that his ears are off by a centimeter or whatever. It just doesn't bother me. But the actual storytelling, Emily Blunt's amazing. I like, it's like one of the few roles I actually really enjoy Bruce Willis in.
Yeah.
I think JGL does an awesome job, and the effects in it are incredible for how little money they had, and I want to go back and watch it. Like, I look at the rest of the movies on the list in 2012, like The Master, like Avengers, like Django, and Silver Lining Playbook, and Argo, and none of them.
Yeah, I mean, I chose Flight, so I'm not telling you that you're wrong.
Yeah, none of them actually hit me in the same way. So that's my number one for 2012.
I think it was one of the harder years to pick. 2013 is not that different though.
It isn't, because it's weird, right? Because there's movies like 12 Years a Slave, and then there's movies like Wolf of Wall Street, where they both are nominated, they're both incredible, but they both make you feel vastly different.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I mean, it's some of the ones you're talking about here. I think are they're great. You know, I think my runner-up is going to be Prisoners.
Okay. Really?
Yeah.
Really?
You thought it was my number one?
I'm shocked.
Yeah, I mean, I love Prisoners. I think it's a great movie. The thing about Prisoners that I've found, because I really, truly do love this movie. I've seen this movie probably 10 times. The thing about Prisoners is that it's not a movie that's like about very much, aside from exactly what it's about. And it does a lot of the things that you're seeing in the movie really well. Like, obviously Jackman's great, and like Dano plays, he plays his role really well, and it's extremely compelling. I love Gyllenhaal. I mean, Deneuve just creates tension so well, but it doesn't have like a rewatchable, like iconic sort of feel in the way that other movies do. And so for that reason, I think it has to be my runner-up, because it feels like it just being a purely good movie. It's harder to communicate that to someone. Like, if a movie like this, if this type of story, a kidnapping story, is not the kind of movie you like to watch, you just won't like this movie, because that's not doing anything or telling an important true story, or it's not about inequality or some social issue. It's just like a really good story.
It's crazy to me that Leo did Gatsby and Wolf in 2013.
Yeah.
It seems so very odd.
I agree.
I think my runner-up for 2013, oh my God, it's so tough. That's so tough. I think my runner-up is 12 Years a Slave.
Yeah, the thing is,
I don't want to ever watch that movie again.
It didn't make my number one of the year. It almost should have, because when I watched it this year, I gave it a really good score. It's a great movie. It's a tragic movie. There's a lot of tragic movies about slavery and racism over the years. There's so many. It's a subject that our artists come back to because it's affecting. It's just, this one is really hard to watch.
Really hard to watch.
And it's truthful.
So good.
But I don't think it's my best of the year, because it's not a movie that I feel like, if the story is retold or a similar story is told in a better way, in 50 years, I don't know if this is the one that you'll go back to rewatch. It's just the most recent, really good version of a story like this, if that makes any sense.
What is your movie?
I go to Wolf. Wolf of Wall Street is my number one.
See,
I know that's offensive, because Wolf of Wall Street is the opposite of important.
Well, I was just going to say that I think everything you just said there kind of leads into Wolf as well. Like, I think in 50 years from now, when you go back and you kind of watch a movie that is about the fucked up, bro-y, fratty part of Wall Street, there's going to be more than just the one. It's something that's becoming more and more popularized over the last decade. It's like, people are like, that's not far off of what it was like in the 80s. That's just what it was.
Right.
So I just don't feel that Wolf really separates itself then in that way either, just because it's funnier, or like...
There's a few reasons, I think, for me that I can explain. What's your number one before I do?
My number one is Dallas.
As that was on my list. I was number 4.
Yeah.
I fucking love Dallas Buyers Club.
I love Dallas Buyers Club, man.
Yeah.
It's so good. The performances are so strong.
Yeah, it's definitive. It's a definitive performance
Dallas Buyers Club.
for McConaughey.
For both of them.
Yeah, for Leto.
Yeah,
Leto's
Leto
great.
wins for it.
It's a great movie. It's a sad movie. It has scenes that stuck with me. I really like it. The reason for me that Wolf makes the number one spot for the year.
And I love Wolf of Wall Street.
So the rewatchability of Wolf of Wall Street is there. It's the pacing. Thelma Schoonmaker as an editor she's like so so good, so consistently good, and she does such a good job with her work. But I think beyond that, there's other reasons, right? So Margot Robbie is going to be one of the definitive movie stars of this era. She'll go down. If she keeps making the kind of movies and keeps doing the kind of work she's doing now, she's going to have a Charlize Theron level career because she's a really good actress and she picks good projects. And this is the movie that the world met her in. This is the movie. This is not only that, but she goes full frontal in this movie.
Yeah, everyone fell in love with her in this movie.
It's a crazy, crazy way to meet somebody who goes on to become a DC actress, like a Warner Brothers comic book friendly actress. You know, little girls want to be Margot Robbie, and the first time most people meet her, she's going full frontal in a Scorsese movie. It's crazy. She's fantastic. She's beautiful, but she's just
amazing.
So good in the movie.
Yeah.
So I think it'll have that added sort of level.
Piece of shit, Jordan.
And then like it does. It's probably the best Jonah Hill's ever been in anything
definitely
he's ever done.
He's great in Moneyball, but this is like this is so good. His character's amazing.
And I kind of feel like this is the best DiCaprio role of the 2010s. Since he's been like this guy that he is, like a massive, massive superstar, it's literally like Inception, this, maybe The Revenant if you have a soft spot for that movie.
I just don't.
And Calvin Candy.
Yeah, I just don't think he's acting. I think Calvin Candy's his best acting in the 2010s. Whereas this is, I think it's like Leo just gets to show up and be fucking Leo, have a great time. I mean, when he's messed up on the pills, that's something that's amazing.
But it's I guess rewatchability is one of the key, most important factors of a movie for me being on an all-time list. Because when you think back to like 50 years ago, you talk about the movies that have stood the test of time versus like the Oscar-winning movies. It's always clear which year had like the movie that should have won versus like the movie that did win, kind of a thing.
King's Speech.
Nobody wants to rewatch The King's Speech, but everybody wants to talk about and rewatch Social Network and Inception. So like the difference between that kind of a movie and the further we get from the year, the less those movies the further you get from the year, the less movies people remember from the year, from the decade.
Just because they're
not familiar. So like the greatest of the decade needs to be something people want to talk about and rewatch. It's why Some Like It Hot or some movie like that from the 50s or 60s stands out and people remember.
Well, you think about a lot of the other movies that were up this year, like Gravity, American Hustle, Before Midnight, Inside Llewellyn Davis, Captain Phillips. I could have forgotten those movies all happened in the same year because, again, they were massive when they came out, but the impact over time. So moving on to 2014.
This year's crazy.
Yeah, this one's real
tough year.
Do you want to start off? Start off with your nominee. Your honorable mention.
You can go first.
You want me to go first? God damn it! I did not want to go first.
This is probably the hardest year.
I think it might be the hardest year for me as well. And I think if I have to, God, Foxcatcher, that movie was actually really good too.
Yeah.
I think my runner-up in 2014 has to be, oh God, I guess it's Gone Girl.
That's your runner-up.
That's my runner-up.
Okay.
Edge of Tomorrow. Edge of Tomorrow is my runner-up.
All right.
I'm locking it in. Gone Girl just got eliminated.
Oh!
Yeah.
Edge of Tomorrow's so sweet.
Edge of Tomorrow's so good. It's tough. I know the third act falls apart a little bit, but it's been a long time since we got a movie like that. It's completely original, and it's not like one of these one-man army things. You get Cruise playing off-brand. Emily Blunt's just amazing.
Incredible.
Paxton's great. Everything about this movie is so good until the last 20 minutes, and I still really love this movie. I enjoy watching it. If they were going to give me a sequel, I'd still go out and watch that sequel.
It's some of the most clever sci-fi I've ever seen. Not the sci-fi component, but the first 40 minutes of this movie is so good. I mean, like literally, like from when Cruise gets dropped in and he wakes up and he doesn't know what's happening, and you start to get the truth of what's going on, and he keeps getting dropped in, and it's like the video game. He's like, he's respawning over and over again. It's just some of the funniest, most entertaining stuff I've seen in a movie.
Yeah,
it's great.
And like this movie's not about trying to be that, but it has so much of that part in this great action movie. It's like an action romance, honestly. So that's my runner-up. What do you got?
It's so tough.
It's so hard.
I have a two-way tie for my runner-up.
Okay.
So the obvious one that most people are going to just think this is probably the number one of the year is Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah.
That's going to be my first runner-up, and I think it's a fair Runner up, it's the most, as I've said, I think on the Collider top superhero movies thing they did a couple years ago. I think it's probably the most remarkable success Marvel ever is going to have. I mean, they may have greater successes and things like Endgame and Infinity War are more impressive, but this movie succeeding is such a crazy testament to the quality because what the hell is this movie?
And I remember watching Guardians in the theater and just being completely blown away. No idea what to expect and just loved it.
And it's fantastic. But I do think on some level, like it being impressive at the time, it's almost been surpassed a little bit by some of the other things Marvel's achieved. Like it's almost like it's special in its own right, but it's now just surrounded by a genre.
Yeah, it definitely got overshadowed. I mean, if that was the only thing we ever got and then Marvel just ended right there, but yeah, that's not the case.
So my true runner-up is Interstellar.
Okay.
And this is probably going to be probably one of my most polarizing takes because I know a lot of people don't like this movie, but I am obsessed with this movie. I think that there's a sequence in this movie that's not the best. I think that the stuff with Matt Damon, by and large, he's miscast. It takes away from the movie a little bit.
It needs to be someone else.
It is my single favorite movie score of all time. It is the movie score and piece of music associated with the movie that I find to be the most affecting and perfectly suited to the movie, even more so than The Social Network. It honestly feels like this movie exists and is special because of the music. McConaughey is incredible. Their visuals in this movie are 2001 Space Odyssey level visuals. It's some of the stuff they create is
the space they create is just amazing.
It's I mean the stuff on the water planet, like the performances,
or just those wide shots of them slowly moving through space.
Yeah.
You're just like, holy shit.
And then I think that the fifth dimension stuff is amazing.
I don't hate it.
I love when he's watching it all happen and his brutal realization that he is leaving his daughter that he's never going to see as that daughter again. He's watching it happen from another time and he's begging himself to stop and to go back and not make the decision to save mankind because love is the most powerful thing. It transcends time and space. It's a beautiful movie. It's a movie that I love and I think it's one of the best of the year.
And I love the idea too, the way they deal with the time travel and stuff in that movie is they're like, these beings don't look at stuff the way we do.
No.
You need to understand that we are so elementary in our intelligence to understanding the way that time and space works. And I love that about Nolan. I think he was actually able to make something in that movie the same way he did in Inception that seems on paper, you'd read it and you're like, this is impossible. There's no way you can make anyone understand what you're trying to say right here. And he's done it numerous times.
Yeah, on rewatch over and over again, repeatedly, I just find it to be so special.
So my runner-up was Edge. My movie is Whiplash.
Hell of a movie.
For me, when you talk about movies that really, really stick with me, a lot of times, because, I love some movies that are really, really depressing and movies that are like not easy to watch, but it's because of performances. And J.K. in this movie, in Whiplash, is maybe my favorite performance of the decade. Just maybe.
He's so good.
He's just so good, and you love seeing someone like him. It was like when Richard Jenkins had his moment. You're like, these guys deserve it. They put in their time for so long. They're so good in everything that they do. And J.K. Simmons in Whiplash is arguably one of the best performances I've ever seen in my life. And that movie's good. It moves well. He's great with the girlfriend and breaking up with her and getting back together, and his relationship with his family and the car wreck. Like, there's just so much good shit in this movie.
Isn't it crazy to think that he is the supporting role in that movie? He's considered supporting
J.K.
actor.
is to Miles.
He won supporting actor, but like he really is. He should have just won lead.
It's his movie.
I mean, Eddie Redmayne beat him that year for Theory of Everything, which is understandable, but like I would take the J.K. role 10 times out of 10.
I mean, that could have just been really smart by J.K.'s team being like, dude, you're not going to beat Eddie Redmayne.
100%.
Playing.
I think it was.
Yeah.
I think it was.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So,
what's your number one?
Gone Girl. It's Gone Girl. It's kind of remarkable just how important Christopher Nolan and David Fincher have been to this decade.
Yeah.
Even though both of them have incredibly important movies last decade, like I would almost go as far as to say that a lot of the most important movies these two guys made were both last decade. Like, The Dark Knight obviously being last decade, Memento was even before that. And then with Fincher, obviously he made Fight Club and Seven way back in the day. Zodiac is last decade. Yeah. Like he really only has Social Network and Gone Girl, but they're both so good. And Gone Girl, we talked about it a little today on our episode of Knives Out, but like Talk about a mystery when you're watching it, that as it's unfolding.
Oh, yeah.
If you don't know what's going to happen, and as it's unfolding, it's like what is this?
It's fucking crazy. That's the only way to put it.
It's crazy. It's got just some of the
It's unsettling.
It's unsettling. I mean, her with the box cutter over Neil Patrick Harris is, at the end when she shows back up. It's so disturbing. It's just so good on so many levels. It works so well.
Because the idea is that he's just trapped with her for the rest of his life, right? Because he can't get away. Because she'll ruin him.
The way the story is
kill
told,
him.
the way the cops. I mean, this is a movie I've probably seen like 5 times now. And when I think about movies that I want to watch, that I'm like, I want to watch something that'll just like keep me engaged. This is a movie I go back to, which is fucked up to say, but just he makes some of the most compelling movies I've ever watched.
Well, and Ben Affleck does such a good job of being like that. What's his name? Scott something?
It's Nick Dunn.
Nick Dunn? No. In real life, there's like the husband Scott something. He's like supposed to be that guy for like the husband of a dead wife that just looks like he just doesn't care, or like he's, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because through the whole movie, he's painted like a shitty husband that doesn't care that his wife's gone, or like he's cheating on her, like all that stuff. And like when he whenever he says stuff on the news or the testimonies, you're just like, you killed her.
Yeah, right.
You're such an asshole.
Yeah, the public opinion part of it is so
crazy,
good.
dude. Yeah, I love Gone Girl. I was just thinking this whole time you were talking about it, I don't know if Ashley's seen it, and I want her to watch that.
Yeah.
2015.
You're like, if we get married, don't do
don't
this.
do this. 2015 is crazy because there are so many polarizing, massive movies. A lot of movie people say are the greatest of all time. In this year.
This is I talked about 2010 and Social Network, and this is the other year in the decade that has a movie that is on most of the top 3 of the decade lists, which I don't know if it's going to make either of our lists necessarily.
What movie is that?
Well, we'll talk about it in a second.
Okay, all right.
But it's my tempting choice is Creed as my runner-up. My actual choice is Carol. Todd Haynes, 2015. It's Cate Blanchett and Rooney Mara.
You love that movie.
It's an amazing film. It's so well told. It's so well acted. It's a unique story. It's also a great...
This is the...
It's a great representation of when a director is like, I'm going to make a movie about a decade, and it's going to be so pitch perfect to like the set design and the feeling and the writing and the look of it. It's an exciting movie. It's got a thriller element. There's a mystery element to it, and it's amazing. It's an incredible, incredible movie. The two of them, Rooney Mara and Cate Blanchett, both turn in these amazing performances. And Carter Burwell does a score on this movie that it is mind-blowing. It's been stuck in my head since the first time I watched it, and I've wanted to watch the movie again just because of the score. I only saw this last year for the first time, and it's so good.
I need to watch it. I've heard nothing but great things about it. A lot of other really big movies this year, like Room, Bridge of Spies, Hateful Eight. One thing, The Big Short, Straight Outta Compton. That's another movie that we talked about when it came. Hit everyone like a brick. And now it's just no one talks about it anymore.
I think there's just a level of like now what we're seeing with Rocketman and Bo Rap, that like the music biopic thing. We're in that again. Back like we were in that
Born,
back in the 2000s, you know, with Ray.
Walk the Line.
Yeah, and I think we're kind of in it again, and people love those movies, but they also love to make fun of those movies.
Yeah, and Straight Outta Compton is so well done. I can't go to it, but what I can do is say that my runner. Oh my God, there's 3 movies that for me just make it impossible.
It's Force Awakens, isn't it?
It is. It is The Force Awakens. It makes it impossible. I think. Oh God. I guess my runner-up's Inside Out.
So good.
It's so good. I can't think of a movie that has hit me like that when I just didn't expect it. I knew it was going to be good. Everyone had overhyped it for me. I thought I was going to go in there with the overhype problem. I loved every second of it. I bawled my eyes out, and I think it is one of the most intelligent animated movies ever made.
So we do this thing, the movie Trivia Schmodown, and one of the topics that comes up a lot is Pixar, because it has its own slice on the wheel. This movie's come up a lot because there's a lot of actors in it that all have a specific character. This movie is almost tailor-made for a trivia game because there's so many things you need to know about it. They can ask you so many of the different things, and none of them feel unreasonable because it was a huge movie. It won Best Animated Film at the Oscars. So my question to you is this, because I realized this the other day. I don't believe this has ever been asked, and I guarantee at some point they will ask this question. I'm sure you probably know all the emotions and most of the actors.
Okay.
She has her 5 islands.
Oh,
Riley's 5 core memories, right? And they go back to them numerous times in the movie. How many think you could name? Because when I thought about it the other day, I like kind of stumbled through 3, and I ended up looking it up, and I was glad I did because I guarantee this is going to be a question at some point.
I thought they asked a question about the islands.
Oh, did they?
I'm pretty sure they asked what the new islands were when they get replaced,
at the
or
end.
something like that. It was like a tough question. I remember, but I'm pretty sure, isn't it like family,
That's one of them.
like friendship,
I think
or
friendship's
like,
one of them, yeah.
and then like
That's already impressive. You get 2.
family, friendship. Is the other one like events or like no?
Hockey's one of them.
Oh, hockey's its own island.
Yeah, because it's like a big part of her memory. Right, exactly. It veers a
Yeah,
little
it
bit.
starts to veer. I can't really remember.
Goofball Island is one of them because her being silly with her family. And
Friendship?
Honesty.
Honesty. Oh, you said
friendship.
honesty. Yeah.
When I looked these up, I was like, this is... That movie
That's
has
a tough question.
so many different things that I feel like you could ask about, and it's crazy, crazy number. But yeah, I agree with you. Inside Out is
So goddamn good.
when they have to leave Bing Bong behind.
Bing Bong. Richard Kern, right?
Richard Kind.
Kind.
Yeah.
Yeah. Bing Bong, Bing Bong. So what's your movie?
My number 1 film of 2015 is Mad Max Fury Road.
Yeah, it's mine too. I wanted to say Sicario so badly.
I love Sicario.
I love Sicario.
And I almost feel like a little bit of a cop-out with Fury Road just because...
you haven't even watched it again.
No, I just saw it in theaters. And
Yeah.
I saw half of it on an airplane like a couple years ago. I remember I turned it on again thinking, like, oh, I'll rewatch this. And I didn't care that much, but it was like a tiny screen on an airplane.
Yeah.
I guess it shouldn't be watched on a tiny screen on an airplane. It's just a movie that probably in the next few weeks I'll watch again because it's the end of the decade. This is on most lists I've seen, this is the number 1 movie of the decade.
If you strap in for the ride
Yeah.
of Mad Max and you turn everything off, you're locked in, lights, camera, like lights, popcorn, and you're just sitting there ready to go on the ride again, it is so goddamn good.
Well, I think, and also, just so people understand, because I know we're all going to be making our lists, and a lot of people are going to read these articles about the top of the decade, but to just explain to anybody who's watching and doesn't understand just quite why this movie gets to make a top of the decade list like that, the reason is a few. It's first of all, it's like a super high octane action movie, but it's an action movie that's not told basically at all through exposition. There's really almost no part of the movie where you have like some voiceover explaining what's supposed to happen next. Almost the whole story is told through action. It's what you're watching. It's just actually what you're seeing on screen.
He has like 17 lines in the movie or whatever it is.
It's brilliant filmmaking because it's able to do that. The actual visual of the movie and what they achieve with practical effects is also so unbelievable.
It's astonishing. The fact that they had to use CG to take explosions out because it was too distracting, that's unheard of.
Yeah, it's one of the most impressive movies for that reason. The themes of the film with this sort of like these oppressed women who have been taken advantage of and who have been imprisoned, getting their revenge. The fact that Furiosa, who was one of these women, gets her revenge, that she's this badass female character it's Charlize fucking Theron, who's like one of the sex icons of our lifetime, as well as obviously being an Oscar
One of the
winner.
greatest actresses ever. And then you also got Immortan Joe, who's this man on top of his tower that holds everything over the people that are below him socioeconomically, essentially. It's
Yeah.
like the rich in charge of the poor, once again.
And she's this beautiful woman who's got one hand and she's bald. I mean,
She's a badass.
And she's a super badass. There's just a lot about this movie that makes it really stand out and be special. And so that's, I think, the reason why it's on so many lists. I'd like to watch it again because I feel like there's almost never is a movie this high on any list.
You're going to love it, dude.
Yeah, it's just been a little while since I've taken the time. So that's the number 1 of 2015.
So now to 2016, 17, and 18, I feel like it starts to get a little bit easier because of recency bias and also because of just recency bias straight up.
My 2016 runner-up is Popstar, Never Stop Stopping.
Damn it! I thought you were going to say The Nice Guys.
No,
Mine's The Nice Guys.
I love The Nice Guys.
Yeah.
The Nice Guys on my 4th watch kind of recently, I found to be less funny.
Okay.
I found it to be still really funny, but it felt more like juvenile humor that I didn't think was like quite as clever as I had the first few times.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's still definitely my top
But
5.
Popstar, on
Definitely
the
top
other
5
hand.
or top 10 because I love The Nice Guys. But Popstar, I think the reason I like Popstar so much and the reason Popstar's gotten funnier every time I've watched it is that like not only is it a great and hilarious movie within its own right, like it's just very funny.
Yeah.
They get all the real people in the industry in the movie. So, like, not only is it a great spoof of the music industry, but it feels like an accurate spoof because everyone's in it. And then on top of that, The Lonely Island wrote all these original songs for the movie that are really catchy and hilarious. Like, it's a great album.
No, Lonely Island's amazing.
It's a great
Their
album.
music is so good.
I mean, Finest Girl, a.k.a. Like We Fucked Bin Laden, is a great one. I'm So Humble is a great one.
Yeah, I'm So Humble. That was such good for your music. I love that.
I mean, let me see that Donkey Roll by the Style Boys. I adore this movie.
I still have seen it just the once.
It's
remember
so
it
much
not at all.
funnier. Let's get stoned and watch it soon.
I am so down.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
What's your number one of the year?
You didn't say your runner-up, did you?
Yeah, I said The Nice Guys.
Oh, The Nice Guys.
Yeah.
My number one's La La Land.
Okay, me too.
Yeah. And it's weird because I saw this at the premiere and I wanted to go back and rewatch it. I've never rewatched the movie. It made me really sad the first time, and I listened to the soundtrack for a while, and I would get sad every time I listened to it, but I would like it.
I think if you go back and watch it again, it won't be as sad the second time. Because, again, I like sad movies. The first time I watched La La Land, I cried a lot.
Yeah.
I cried a lot. And then when I went back and watched it again, it didn't hit me the same way, and I was actually kind of let down that it didn't hit me the same way. But I still love that movie. I don't know if Emma deserved the Oscar for it. I think she's very good in it. I think they both really are. I just don't know if it was an Oscar-worthy performance, but I love that movie. And the story that it tells of the artist's struggle in L.A. And you know, they don't really talk much about addiction, but they do talk a lot about just like the love of what you're doing versus the love of your life, and like trying to pick those two roads, and that's a real
and kind
thing.
of selling out,
And
like
selling
that's
out.
that's like a real part of the movie. That's interesting if you live here because
giving
it's like,
up and coming back, all that stuff.
nobody thinks they're selling out as they're selling out. You just think you're succeeding.
And then you see it from a bird's eye view, and you're like, you are totally selling out, dude.
Yeah. It's great. I mean, I think, there's other movies from 2016. A lot of people would put Arrival. I think.
loved Arrival.
I think a lot of people really love Civil War is for a lot of people. But, for me, the La La Land, I'm not a huge musical guy usually, and this movie really works. It's funny, Pop Star is basically a musical too. But 2017, I think we have the exact same too.
I'm pretty sure, but what order?
I go best movie of the year is Get Out.
Yep.
Runner-up's Logan.
Yep, 100%.
Only because, I mean, and they both do something special within their genre. And I will probably find Logan to be more rewatchable on the whole than Get Out. But like when you talk about what a movie does, Logan is taking the concept of a superhero film and it's telling this like Western story where you're losing this beloved character, and that's
Coming of age, family drama almost.
That's really special, and it's really significant. But Get Out, as I've called it before, is the most approachable film on race ever made. That's like a movie when you talk about 12 Years a Slave versus Get Out, and you're like, one of those movies is extremely hard to watch on a very important subject.
And the other one is incredibly enjoyable to watch.
And it's still teaching you something about this time period. It's teaching you something about movie making right now. It's funny, but it works. It's great. Like, Get Out is a special movie. It's a unique, once-in-a-generation kind of movie.
It's hard to say that Get Out is not the most important horror movie made in contemporary time.
Yeah.
Like, it really does. I mean, obviously, if you go back to, like, The Poltergeist and The Exorcist and what those movies did, that was a lifetime ago.
Yeah.
Get Out now is a PG-13 horror movie that speaks on massive social issues that is not horrifying to watch. So you can show anyone Get Out and they'll be like, "Oh, that was scary."
Yeah,
but then they're also like, "I had fun. I laughed and I learned." And
it's poignant. Like, you love the Bradley Whitford. I would have voted for Obama a third time.
Yeah, third time if I could have.
And she even says that he's going to say that. Like, there's just a lot about Get Out that's really special. So
then the ability to inject comedy into movies like that is a true talent.
So for just one last year, let's talk about before we kind of just do a quick 2019, overview. But basically, I don't know if we have the same for 2019. But I
2019?
Sorry, 2018.
Yeah, I'm not sure either.
I know that my this is so hard, but I think
we do have it. I think we do. I think the runner-up is Love, Simon for me.
Me too.
And then the
it
winner
was my
is
number one. Love, Simon was my number one movie basically all year. But again, you talk about recency bias and you talk about the way that a movie has played a second time through. And my number one movie of last year is Infinity War.
It is. I actually turned it on last night as I went to bed. It's so good. It's so enjoyable.
I like it so much more than Endgame, not because I don't like Endgame, but because Infinity War just is doing everything that I want out of the MCU. It's doing everything. The only thing that Endgame has, basically, that Infinity War doesn't have for me, aside from Avengers Assemble, which obviously is its own sort of thing, but it's almost too much for me in some ways.
And also with,
I was going to say what's that?
With the hammer.
That's
dude.
what I was going to say. That's the only thing that Endgame definitively has that I think Infinity War doesn't, is it has Cap getting the hammer, which is probably the best moment in the history of the MCU. It's probably the like single most just like holy shit fist pump there is. But
Yeah.
but
That is the fist bump of the MCU.
yeah, but Infinity War still has Cap holding the gauntlet open. It has so many moments, and it has great character moments in a very limited amount of space, which is the most impressive part.
And it has loss. It has the actual massive loss of losing all these people and not knowing what's going to happen, not knowing when they're going to come back, and also the whole year that we had to wait was horrible.
Yeah.
it was torture.
Were you more excited to see Infinity War in the screening? Did we see this in a press screening?
Infinity War?
We did, right? Oh, no.
No.
I had just gotten started.
Haggerty,
I didn't have the relationship
yeah.
yet. I went with Hags for the cast and crew screening.
And I just went to a normal screening of it.
Yeah.
And
it
then
was
this
Endgame,
year,
we got to go to Disney. So I was probably more excited. I don't know which one I anticipated more.
I was more excited to see Endgame in the because it was the end. We knew, and we and the other thing too is because our friend Matt had been working on it, we knew that it had been done for a whole year.
Yeah, it's pretty. It
was crazy.
What great movies! But so that's our best of the year and our runner-up for each of the years. 2019's not over yet, and we're going to do our best of the decade. We're going to do our best of the year. There'll probably be 2 episodes, I would think. I might suggest we wait to do our best of the year until January.
Yeah, I think we should wait till the year's passed for sure.
And maybe we do our best of 2019 early as we get into like sort of Oscar season. Probably, I think that's probably the thing to do. But 2019, so far my top movies, the ones I've liked the most, are Joker's really high for me. There's a lot of the Oscar stuff I haven't seen yet because a lot of them, those screeners are just starting to get sent out, and they're. There's these invitations are just starting, and so
yeah, it's tough. There's movies like Shazam, Joker, Knives Out, Ford Ferrari,
Booksmart, Ford Ferrari.
Yeah,
I really like Late Night a lot. I haven't got to see Parasite yet.
I haven't seen Jojo Rabbit yet. So there's a lot of movies that are out there that people are just losing their shit over. And then you got to remember about earlier on in the year, Toy Story 4, Endgame. There's so Midsummer. There's so much.
Yeah, there's a lot to watch. So we still have to cover a lot of those movies. Still have to watch a lot of those movies and review them. But stay tuned as we get kind of into next year for that. So guys, thank y'all so much for watching our best movie by year of the decade here on Collider on the Collider Live channel. Leave your thoughts, your comments below. Do you agree or disagree? What are your favorite movie by decade? What's your favorite movie of the decade?
Yeah, I gotta know. We want to know. Are we so off? Is there anything that we missed? Are there movies that we put way too high up there? Please let us know down in the comments. Thank you so much, Collider, for putting us up on the channel. You guys can catch this. It's a Saturday, I think.
It's Saturday. So go check out our channel, Action Industries. It's a YouTube channel. It's ours. YouTube.com/Action Industries. Subscribe. We do live streams. You guys can hang with us. We've got a Patreon. All the things. And as always, guys, thanks for tuning in.
Bye.